want you to tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think we need to act against climate change? You might score pretty high, perhaps a 7 or an 8, even a 10, and I know that some of you will not have scored it at all.
Well, I give it an 11, because we only have 11 years until climate change is irreversible. Now, I'm going to ask you another question, and I want you to be really honest with yourselves and think about it for a moment, okay? So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you doing to act on climate change? Or are you just following the trend? Now, are you reducing the amount of flights you take?
Are you recycling?
Are you reducing your meat consumption?
Do you compost?
Are you attending strikes? Or are you using your social media platform to promote an eco-friendly way of living? Or better yet, how much of the stuff you're actually doing contributes to climate change?
We ourselves are only two 17-year-old climate activists. We are in no way experts in climate science or pros who know how to live the most ecological life in the history of this planet. But we do know that it is hard to navigate yourself whilst trying to live a sustainable lifestyle.
We also understand the urgency of this. But like us, you might not have realised there are more efficient ways to act. From what I've recently gathered, climate change is a very popular topic in conversation and media. On the 20th of September, over 4 million people attended the climate strikes. This time, though, it wasn't just young people, it was people from all walks of life. How amazing is that? But how many of those people are actively seeking change in their day-to-day lives? And how many are just jumping on the bandwagon?
While there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a large amount of people being interested in the cause, we think this is great. We want people to feel and act as if there is a humanitarian crisis going on, because when it comes down to it, it's a matter of life or death. But there seems to be a gap between what people want to see change and what people are actually doing. And that gap also represents the balancing act between systematic and individual change, as one cannot exist without the other. We need every component of change to ensure a future for this planet that we call home.
We believe that filling the gap, or minding the gap, so to speak, is the key in ending this disaster.
Firstly, we want to tell you a bit about how we got involved in all of this. We've both always been animal lovers.
I'm vegetarian.
And I'm vegan. And soon we realised that not eating meat does more than saving animals. It also saves the planet. But this led us to ask, why does the planet need saving?
We began looking into studies done by scientists and found that action needs to take place right now. In a recent study done by the IPCC, so the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, it states that we've only 11 years until climate change is irreversible.
11 years?
How terrifying is that? It also states that due to rising temperatures, sea levels will rise by at least 1 metre by the end of the decade. This is going to change life as we know it.
The process of saving our home is not only necessary, but extremely urgent. It's so urgent that we all need to act together to create change.
It's not just down to us. Shona and I cannot do it alone. We physically cannot. There's too many systems and structures put in place that just make it impossible. That's why we need everyone to get involved. We need you to get involved, and to go further than attending a strike and justifying it with, well, I've done my part from the day. Social media has always been a huge part of modern society. We've seen both the negative and positive impacts it can make. Social trends flow throughout our feeds, and it's very easy to get stuck in a cycle of sharing, liking, retweeting, commenting, posting on things.
We can definitely say we're guilty of it.
But very often, it's just meaningless. We're like sheep sharing the same thing over and over again.
How many times have you shared something online, but then gone out and done something that is exactly the opposite? By this, I mean to say, how many times have you shared a post, a status, or a tweet saying you believe in one thing, but actually doing something that is completely not that?
So, for example, somebody might share a picture of a poor sea creature, say a turtle, who's died from plastic consumption. But then that same person goes and does their shopping and buys all their products in excessively packaged plastic.
Another example of this is when there is a big trend among social media that liking a post would plant a tree. Firstly, I just want to say that a lot of these accounts were fake and many exploited the climate movement to gain money, popularity, and followers.
We would see these people being very vocal online, but what they did in real life did not match this persona they were portraying. It's the classic case of appearances versus reality. Everyone wants to look like kind, morally conscious, empathetic people, but are we actually bothered to act like it? We are in no way saying that social media shouldn't be used to promote eco-friendly ways of life. We want to see everybody posting about it. It can do wonders for a movement.
But only if it's productive. We want people to reenact what they are posting about online and stop being keyboard warriors hiding behind screens. Get out from under your desk and go into the world and make an actual difference.
Now, when I post online, I try to make sure my actions actually match what I'm saying.
But it's not just individuals following the trend. Politicians can too. But this is not enough. We need their actions to be actions and not just words.
Do you remember the time we went down to DunLaoghaire in the Irish government to make a speech to the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Climate Change? Well, after we gave it, everyone was like, "Wow, you're so amazing. You're really making a difference. You've really changed how I'm thinking." But then we watched those same politicians who came up to us go back into their meeting and vote against all sustainable policies that can make such a huge change to the movement.
We can also see this with the response to the global student strike movement. It was seemingly positive, but can you actually see a sizable difference?
Also, Ireland was the second country in the world to declare a climate emergency. Now, when I found out, I was overjoyed until I realised that only 6 TDs showed up to vote on it. 6.
This is not enough. We need actual action to take place. And it is also so important to remember that when we are talking about this, we here in Ireland are so lucky to have the opportunity to actually make change. In so many other places, as girls and activists, we would not have the right to have our voices heard. But even though this is the case, we aren't doing enough.
We also understand the injustice that many countries who are trying their absolute best to tackle climate change are receiving the worst of it. For example, Malawi in Africa have received the worst droughts and floods ever recorded in the past decade. This has been detrimental to their economy as they are 92% rain-fed reliant. But sadly, Malawi are not responsible for this, as Ireland's carbon footprint is 80 times bigger than Malawi's.
We, as the more developed nations in this world, have a responsibility. We need to take this responsibility for our actions, because our actions are the ones that cause countries such as Malawi to suffer.
We are in no way perfect.
No one is. Every single thing we do every minute of the day impacts our environment, and sadly, our society is constructed to promote profit over altruism.
Every action, positive or negative, makes a difference. And we need to look after our own back gardens to see the ripple effect that will create new social norms.
And with new social norms comes governmental and worldwide changes. This is how we can, we will, and we are going to make a difference.
We don't want everyone to do it perfectly. We want everyone to do it imperfectly so that everyone's getting involved.
Do you want to be on the right side of history, or for this planet itself to become history?
We owe it to the earth to take a united stand. Let's put the action behind the hashtag. Take part in simple acts such as not buying into fast fashion,
Composting and recycling,
reducing how much meat you eat.
reducing how much plastic you use.
They all add up. So, I'm going to ask you one final question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you going to do to make a difference to climate change
Today.